Hello, and welcome to another episode of Letters from Camp. It's our first episode of 2024, and we have two very special guests tonight. So I'd like to welcome Matt and NoraAnn Faler. Good evening, guys. How are you?
Doing well. How are you, Mike?
Fantastic. Um, so for those who may not know Matt and NoraAnn, they are pretty unique in that they are a camp couple. They are married, but they met at camp many moons ago. Um, and unlike other camp couples like Dennis and Tammy Fortune or my wife and I, they're 100% Winoxet, no Walklow involved. Um, so let's to get started. Let's get your camp story. So when you first came to camp, years as a camper, staff member, areas worked in, kind of your trajectory and here at Winoxet.
So I guess I'll go first. I started attending camp in 2001 as a camper with 189 Sterling, Mike's home troop as well. And I was with them for a couple years, and then I ended up moving to New Hampshire, or not New Hampshire, Ashburnham. So I attended camp with the Ashburnham troop. But because I stayed close with the Sterling troop, I would come with them with week 7. And it was great. I was attended camp as a camper until I was 16. And then I got my start working at camp in 2006 on the waterfront. It was actually at Nate Blake's Eagle Court of Honor. And I attended that. And we were in line waiting for food, and we were just talking, and Mike was actually behind me, and he said, "Hey, what are you doing this summer?" I said, "I don't know, nothing yet. Why?" He goes, "Do you want to work at camp?" And that's how it started. So I spent my first summer working on the waterfront, and then I came back year after year. So that second year through, I believe it was 2013, so 2007 to 2013, I worked on the Ranger Corps for John Mayo with a handful of people. In 2014, I was the full-time camp nurse. And then since then, I've kind of been wearing multiple hats, working with Cope and Climbing, helping out John at the Ranger Shop, continuing to be mostly helpful at the Health Lodge, the best that I can. And during my tenure with the Ranger, up through a few years ago, I was the one that was kind of managing or overseeing the Winoxet House of Pizza on Friday nights.
Yeah.
All right, how about you, NoraAnn?
My story is much shorter, although very different. So I was set to graduate nursing school in the summer of 2015, and I was sitting at dinner one night. We were all getting excited for graduation. We were just talking, chatting, like as senior girls do in college. And I was going through my school emails on my phone, and I got an email ad for a camp nurse position. So I kind of like read it and was like, oh, that's like relatively close. Like Googled where it was like, oh, that's interesting, and kind of threw it out there to the table with my friends, who all admittedly were like, you cannot do that. Like, you do not belong outside. You don't like outside. You can't do that. And everybody knows me, my personality. When you tell me I can't do something, it therefore means I'm going to go and do it and knock it out of the park. So I went to talk to Mike, got an interview, went and met Danny. It turns out that Danny and I have connections. Dr. Thibodeau, who at the time who was working there as a St. A's grad, just a whole bunch of connections that all came into place. And then I got the job, and I had to go do it. So I was the nurse there for the summer of 2015. Which was a very interesting time for a lot of different reasons. It was never easy, but I really am glad that I stuck it through those first few nights of getting over the spiders and the mothball smell and everything else that the Health Lodge had to offer when you move in and have to clean it out yourself. And I've been coming back ever since then to help other nurses cover vacations, cover time away if they have something scheduled they have to go do, or have to go take a exam test or have a doctor's appointment or whatever. And I kind of just help out where I can.
Now, had you had any experience at camps like as a kid, any day camps or any or resident camps that you'd been to?
So never sleepaway camp. Like we had always kind of done like shorter camps. Like we had gone to like a tennis instructional camp. We did a computer camp one year. We did soccer camp. Like my mom kind of always had us in like day stuff. But I never had been in a camp where I was like outside in a cabin or in the woods and then slept away. So I think that was also part of my culture shock and showing up to lovely Wonoxet.
And what's interesting, Matt, is you've worked in so many different areas, but in my mind, I always jump to being at the ranger shop and kind of like John's apprentice in a way, like him always kind of teaching you how to do stuff and kind of his right hand man. But having worked in so many areas and done so many different jobs in camp, what kind of keeps you coming back?
So I think camp it's never the same summer to summer, and just seeing the excitement on everybody's face, whether it be their first year at camp or their 30th year at camp, and it's just a special place. And being able to even teach a scout or a staff member or anybody just one skill, and being able to share this magical place that camp is. I know as staff members, and I'm assuming a lot of camp people who've attended camp as well, say that it's a place that's unique and there's nowhere else in the world like it that we've experienced. And just being able to like disconnect from the world and just be able to focus on camp and being the best person that you can is just something special. A few years ago, I was there in a part-time capacity, and I think I was covering the health lodge for a week, and I had a scout come who kind of looked at me and said, "Don't you work at the ranger shop?" Because I was covering the health lodge. I went, "I mean, yeah, I've been doing that for a bunch of years. Why? What's up?" He goes, "I think you taught me how to weld." I said, "It's definitely possible." And then he and his mother and I had probably a 45-minute conversation about how just learning that one skill has kind of projected his path. When he's not at camp, he and his family actually race cars, and he uses those welding skills to repair the cars.
Oh,
I
wow.
thought that's amazing.
Yeah, that's cool. So, we often hire new grads as nurses. They make it's a pretty good trial by fire, but it also gets them some experience. So for you, NoraAnn, coming in as a new grad nurse, what are some skills or experiences you're able to get at camp that kind of helped you when you started working, in more of a hospital setting?
Yeah, I definitely think one of the biggest ones is learning how to prioritize. And I think that although camp is not the same as a hospital, the basic skills of prioritizing and doing a quick little, hey, what do you need? What's going on with you? And then doing the same with somebody else. And really, they call it now in healthcare like the customer service, which you guys already call it. But being able to like acknowledge you, but you need to wait a hot second and then acknowledge somebody else and be like, okay, you are more important. And just to be able to kind of like juggle both things at the same time. I always kind of kid that if you can make a 12-year-old kid happy, like you can probably make anybody happy, like including grumpy 80-year-old men, like they're fairly similar. If you can juggle two of those, you'll probably be okay. And the other one, as you said, trial by fire, is to kind of just trust your gut. They do, especially at St. A's, a fantastic job of training us, but until you're like on the ground, so to say, and getting your feet wet, you don't really know that little voice that says, hey, wait, like that might not be the best thing. And I think you guys, as far as like supporting new grads, do a really great job of like, what does Danny Megan say? When in doubt, ship it out. Like if you have a question, if you're not sure, then we're not sure and we're 100% behind you. And I think taking that experience and that community and that sense of everyone who's around me is here to help me, and then going into the workplace, like that's the same kind of relationship you need to have with your fellow nursing staff and your fellow like nursing assistants and the doctors and everyone else. If it's a true good team like Wonoxet has amongst the staff, then there's no qualms about being like, hey, wait, like I have a question or I don't feel right about that, and have everyone respect that and respond to it appropriately.
Yeah. And Matt, for you, it's also been kind of a bit of a family affair too, with Tony and Zach and everything. So what's that been like to kind of also be able to work with your brothers and stuff on staff?
I think it was a lot of fun. Tony and I actually started the same year on staff, so we kind of went through staff together. And then once Zach was of age, he kind of joined. And if you know him, we don't have a similar appearance at all. I have dark hair and a big beard, and he is a much shorter blonde-haired kid. Um, and everyone goes, "What? No, you can't be brothers. No way." And just kind of seeing that reaction and being at camp with fam was kind of fun, and just having a family member there that understands, and just kind of can, and you can look at them and say like one thing, and they'll just die laughing. Just kind of like any one of us at a camp event, we can look at somebody and say something out of the blue, and everyone just understands. It was really special. And now that there's different other families that are having siblings with them, it's kind of special to see it from the outside and kind of see if how their experiences are similar.
Yeah. Also led to one of the longer running nicknames at camp with Shrek and Donkey.
Yep.
Well. All right, let's move into our lightning round. So first off, what is your favorite camp song?
Mine's The Hullabaloo. Only because that's one of the songs that I can probably still sing if I wanted to. I know it's very short, but that one I got down.
I think mine is Sunnyside. So it kind of gets everybody involved. It's silly and it's fun. It's an upbeat.
And it can go for a very long time.
That it can, but especially when it's raining.
How about your favorite skit?
Ooh, I think of recent note, the Venetian fountains a few years ago was pretty unique and out there.
I don't have a favorite skit because I've never gotten through a full campfire, Mike Penny. So I don't have one. There's always some sort of something going on during a campfire. So I don't have one. I thought about it. I don't know.
Yes, there is a very high percentage of campfires where someone will come to the back of the amphitheater saying, "Where's the nurse?" Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. How about your favorite camp meal?
I'm gonna go pancakes.
I'm gonna go more savory. I'm gonna say Hunter's chicken.
Hunter's chicken.
Oh yeah, it's a great Tuesday night meal.
How about your favorite place in camp?
I think I have two. One is going to be Chapel Point. It seems to be that place in camp that everybody can just go get away from the noise. You have the lake in front of you, the mountain. Depending when you go, you have the sunset. And it just gives you an opportunity to think and reflect about the day and what's upcoming. And the other is a more recent place in camp, but the porch of the boathouse, just because you get to see and observe what's going on in camp, and just get to take in everything that's going on and like the fun that everybody seems to be having, and it's just a different perspective.
Yeah, I think my favorite place is Rangers Beach, that nice little slice of beach with the little bench on it. It's close enough to the health lodge that I could still see if somebody was at the health lodge, but it also gave me time and space to like walk across the field and sit there and be like, okay, like just a breath, but still within earshot in case something was needed. So yeah, that's my answer.
And when you were a camper, was there any staff member you kind of looked up to, or really saw as like a mentor or anything like that?
I think there were a lot of staff members that I interacted with that brought some sort of energy or memory to camp, like Jay Trink and Dennis, Mike Crimmin in Provo, just the crazy things that he would do. And I like there's just those like memorable staff members. And I think the person that I developed the closest relationship with is Derek Kelson. Just because we're of similar age and similar demeanor. And it's funny, he works for the DPW in town, so anytime he's driving by, he beeps and waves. And sometimes he'll stop by and we'll give him a coffee while he's plowing, and we say, "Yep, bring it back anytime." So we have that relationship outside of camp as well.
And NoraAnn, obviously you weren't a camper, but when you worked at camp, was there anyone you kind of either looked up to or served as like a mentor to you?
I think that it hasn't been that long since 2015, but a lot at camp has changed, especially with the percentage of female staff. So I think definitely my first year, like shout out to Kathy Megan as a way to like hold yourself as a female in a group full of people, to have 2 kids running around and you would never know how to interact with people. If you didn't know the answer, you just say like, well, I'll get my best to find you an answer. She would, every time she ever went to the store, would ask me if I needed anything. Like if she's like, I would take you if I could, so you could get out, like whatever you need. I think Kathy for me was a great example of a woman and someone who is a silent leader in a way. Because Kathy, if you ask her to do anything, will get it done. And I think she's a great mother as well. So definitely Kathy Megan.
That's definitely a good one. All right, 2 bonus questions, which I did not prep you for by sending them in advance. But number 1 is, what's been the like most gruesome or best injury you've seen in the health lodge?
I don't have, mine's not gruesome, but it's a good one that we haven't dealt with. And for that, I don't know. We had, was it last year or 2 years ago? I don't remember. We had a live moth in a kid's ear.
That was 2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And he was a trooper. So we basically just drowned it with peroxide in his ear and then had to flush it out. And the kid handled it better than I would have, to be honest. But it was one of the most time intensive and I think comforting, like the amount of comfort you're giving somebody. Because a lot of times it's like, oh, I scraped my knee, or oh, this is happening, or whatever. But I think that one was a lot of patience, and it took a lot of what I'm good at and what he's good at together to kind of get it out, get it flushed, and to have him feeling better.
Yeah, that was a good one. I think the most gruesome one that I've seen was a scout who ended up tripping and slicing their calf open. It wasn't bleeding everywhere, which was nice, but just how deep the cut was, I was like, wow, that's impressive. Like, how did you do this? And they told me the story, and I was like, okay. So we sent him over to that knock, and he came back, and I think he had like 38 stitches. Yeah. So it was a sight into the human body that I'm not gonna forget.
That's a lot of stitches.
Yeah.
And so my last question, so John Mayo has refused to be a guest on this program, but is there any, having worked with him, maybe something people don't know about him, the average camper or scoutmaster might not know, that you can give us insight into the man, the myth, the legend?
John loves puzzles. That's one I can provide you. That was one of the ways that I got close with John, obviously through Matt as well, but when I was nurse, we definitely did puzzles once a week. And if it wasn't done, John would come up with his Diet Coke and sit on the little green bench, and he would finish it so I could hang it up and get the next one going for the next week. You probably have a much different answer to that, but mine's puzzles.
Love it.
Yeah, he does love puzzles. I don't know if he ever told you, but when he was a kid, his family got him I believe it was a 300-piece single color puzzle.
Yes.
And that's why he's so good at puzzles.
Yes.
But just the amount of knowledge he has, like ask him anything and he seems to always have an answer. And just I don't know where he keeps all of the knowledge that he has.
And in multiple different areas too. Like it's not a single track of knowledge. Like it's vast.
Yeah.
Like more than I even realize, I'm sure, but yeah.
If you can ever get him to trivia, you want him on your team.
Yes. No, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you both for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
And to all our viewers, hopefully a lot of you attended the camp 100th anniversary kickoff event that was just happened, and there'll be some more events coming. We have the spring workday planned, and more details will be coming about that. And then we have our 100th anniversary at camp event, which will happen in June, and more details and registration information will be coming about that as well. But that will be a good time. You definitely want to save the date and be there for basically the camp's 100th birthday party. So, all right. So stay tuned, and we'll be back next month with another edition of Letters from Camp.